ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May the Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we acquire the capacity to study and understand the scriptures. May our study be brilliant and may we not cavil at each other. Om peace, peace, peace unto all.
Sai Ram, and welcome to the Sri Sathya Sai Center of Arcadia, and a very warm and special welcome to our guest speaker tonight, Brother Vijay Desai from New York. And let me read his bio, and then I will hand it over to him for a wonderful talk tonight. Vijay Desai has been a Sai devotee since the early 80s. In the Sathya Sai organization, he has held many positions, including President of the Northeast region of the USA, Vice President of the Sathya Sai Baba Central Council of the USA, Central Coordinator of USA, and Chairman of Publications and Media Committee of the Sri Sathya Sai World Foundation. Vijay is the author of 15 books on Swami's divine teachings. The latest 7 books are available on our International Sathya Sai organization website. To download them, go to satyasai.org and scroll down to where it says Divine Teachings of Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And the flyer you're looking at, the link is clickable. So any of you who would like to get his books, you can just click on that link. It'll take you directly there. And welcome, Brother Vijay, and thank you so much. It's very late for you, and we'll give it to you now. And we are looking forward to hearing your wonderful talk. Sai Ram.
My reverential pranams at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dear brothers and sisters, Sai Ram to all of you. The topic that I've chosen for my talk today is Swami's divine grace is very precious. As devotees, what should we do to secure his divine grace? So I have split my talk in 2 parts. In the first part, I'll explain why Baba's divine grace is very precious. And in the second part, I'll explain, as devotees, what should we do to secure that precious grace. Now, Baba's divine grace is indeed very precious. In fact, there's nothing in this world as precious as Baba's divine grace. And the reason is that when we have Baba's divine grace, we have 2 very important things. Number 1, our spiritual journey is accelerated. And number 2, if we are in ever difficulty in our journey, Swami will guide us, he would guard us, and he would protect us. Now, all of us are on a spiritual journey, whether we are aware of it or not. Our spiritual journey ends when we go back to the source from where we come. So on our spiritual journey, we always have to make the right choices in life. We cannot make any mistakes, because when we always make the right choices in life, our spiritual journey is accelerated. So how does Swami's divine grace help us on our spiritual journey? Very simple. When we have Baba's divine grace, we realize that Swami is watching us. We realize that Baba knows all our thoughts, all our words, and all our deeds. When we are aware of this, we will always make the right choices in life. When we always make the right choices in life, we do not make any mistakes. And when we do not make any mistakes, our spiritual journey is automatically accelerated. The second major benefit of Baba's divine grace is that sometimes we may run into a very serious difficulty. It could be a health problem, it could be a financial problem, it could be a problem at home, it could be a problem at work, or we are involved in a major automobile accident. If we have Baba's divine grace, Baba will guide us, he would guard us, he will protect us. That is Swami's divine assurance to all his devotees. Now, all of us are here in the world because we still have to work out a karmic burden that we are carrying. So, if we have Baba's divine grace, Swami will help us through our karmic burden in one of three ways. In the first instance, Swami allows us to go through our karmic burden, but he lightens the load of that karmic burden. In the second case, Baba again allows us to go through our karmic burden, but he nullifies the pain that is associated with that karmic burden. And in the third instance, Swami completely wipes off that karmic burden. So let me provide examples in these three scenarios. With respect to Swami allowing us to go through our karmic burden, but lightening the load of that karmic burden, Swami gives the example of a person whose karmic burden is equivalent to 100 rupees. Now, in India, we have a 1 rupee coin. So if this person's karmic burden is 100 rupees, in his pocket, he is carrying 100 coins of 1 rupee each, which is very heavy. What Swami does is that he takes away those 100 coins and replaces it with one note of 100 rupees. So 100 coins equals to 100 rupees. One note of 100 rupees is also 100 rupees. But there is a major difference. The difference is that the coins are very heavy, the note is very light. So Swami allows us to go through our karmic burden, but he lightens the load of that karmic burden. In the second instance, Baba allows us to again go through our karmic burden, but he nullifies the pain that is associated with that burden. Swami gives the example of a person who has a lot of pain. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor gives him a morphine injection. Although the pain is there in the body, he does not feel the pain because of the morphine injection. Swami says, your karmic burden, your pain is the karmic burden. The morphine injection is my divine grace. And in the third instance, Swami completely wipes off that karmic burden. And I'd like to share a beautiful story. There was a student in Swami's university who had a very severe case of chronic asthma. He could hardly breathe during the day. He could hardly breathe during the night. His breathing was so bad that whistling sound used to emanate during the breathing process. Swami calls him in for the interview one day and says that this breathing difficulty is a result of a major karmic burden and that he would suffer from this burden for the rest of his life. However, Baba said, if I take on your karmic burden just for a few minutes, I will completely wipe off that burden of yours. So in the interview room, Baba began the process of taking over that student's karmic burden. Baba started breathing just like the student. Baba's breathing was very shallow, and in fact, whistling sounds emanated during the breathing process. This continued for several minutes, and then Baba regained his normal breathing pattern. In the process, Baba completely wiped off that student's karmic burden. Now, when Swami was with us in the physical form, we heard of many, many stories where Baba took care of his devotees by showering his grace on them. For example, we heard stories of Baba canceling the cancer of a devotee, and we heard numerous stories of Baba protecting a devotee who had a major automobile accident. Although the accident was very major, he came out of the accident without a scratch. So we heard all these beautiful stories when Swami was with us in the physical form. So a very important question arises, and the question is, does Swami continue to take care of his devotees now that he is no longer with us in the physical form? And the answer is yes, absolutely, 100%. Baba continues to take care of his devotee. To understand this, we have to realize that there are two forms of Swami. One was the beautiful physical form of Swami that was with us from 1926 to the year 2011. And then there is the omnipresent form of Swami that has been with us throughout eternity. Now, Swami's omnipresent form was with us in all of our previous lives on earth and beyond that. Swami's omnipresent form is with us right now, and Swami's omnipresent form will be with us in all of our future lives on earth and beyond. And it is that omnipresent form of Swami that is taking care of us right now. Also, it's important to remember that Swami's omnipresent form is more powerful than the physical form of Swami. And as we know, Swami's physical form was so powerful, yet the omnipresent form of Baba is more powerful. Swami says that when God chooses to come down as an avatar in the physical form, he has to come down with diminished splendor and limited effulgence. So the physical form of Swami has diminished splendor and limited effulgence compared to the cosmic form of Swami. Once Swami called a group of students in the Vrindavan ashram in the interview room, shut the door and pointed towards himself and said, "How long are you going to run after this body?" The unseen Swami is more powerful than the seen Swami. Swami then gave the example of the unseen roots of a tree, which are more powerful because they sustain the entire tree. Swami also gave the example of the foundation of a building, which is unseen, and yet it's so powerful that it sustains the entire building. So, dear brothers and sisters, there should be no doubt in our mind that Swami's omnipresent form is taking care of us right now. So let me share 4 beautiful experiences that I've had with Swami after his Mahasamadhi. So the first experience I had happened in the year 2014, which is 3 years after Swami left the physical form. Swami came into my dream and with so much love and so much concern said, "You have bubbles in your heart. May I have your permission to energize your heart?" In my dream, Baba said, "You have bubbles in your heart. May I have your permission to energize your heart?" Can you believe that, dear brothers and sisters? Here is Swami, who is the Purna avatar, which is the highest category amongst avatars. Here is Swami, who is the avatar of the age. Here is Swami, who is the source of all avatars. And here is Swami, who is not an ordinary avatar, he is a cosmic being. And he's the greatest avatar that has ever visited planet Earth. And Mother Earth herself was blessed that such a powerful being walked on Earth. That Swami, with so much humility and concern and love, is asking me for my permission to energize my heart. What could I say? In my dream, I folded my hands and said, "Yes, Swami." Baba then placed both his hands on my chest and in a circular motion energized my heart. That's a beautiful example of Swami's divine grace. Now, like all people, I have my annual physical exam. None of the exam showed any problem with my heart, none whatsoever. Swami anticipated a potential problem and took care of it before it ever occurred as a sign of his grace and love for me. The second story happened in the year 2016, which is 5 years after Swami's Mahasamadhi. Our son got married in September of 2016, and he and his fiancée are outdoor people. They like hiking and they like camping and the like. So they selected a very remote place in Northern California to have their wedding. It was an outdoor wedding on the ground surrounded by trees. And that town is so remote that there's only one gas station there. And it also is a mom and pop gas station, none of those branded gas stations that you normally see. So the night before, I decided that I'll fill up the automobile with gas. So I drove the car to the gas station, parked the car at the pump, and went inside a very tiny convenience store that is attached to that gas station. I mean, it's part of that gas station. So when I entered the store, the attendant was taking care of a customer. So I had the opportunity to look around in that tiny convenience store, and I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. The usual stuff that they normally sell at a convenience store, like cookies and candy and chips and chocolate and things like that. So when it was my turn, I went to the counter and gave him $30. So while he was ringing me up, I was looking at the counter and I did not see anything out of the ordinary. So I went back to the car, filled up the automobile with gas, and it came to $27. So I went back to the convenience store to get my $3 in change. When I entered the store, I noticed that there were no customers, only the attendant was there standing behind the counter. So I went directly to the counter, and lo and behold, what did I see? I saw a beautiful box of incense sticks right on the counter, and on both sides of the box, there was a picture of Swami in the Abhayasta pose. Dear brothers and sisters, how did a box of incense sticks with two pictures of Swami appear in a very tiny convenience store in a very remote place in California? There's no doubt in my mind that that was the sign of Swami's blessing the wedding. And in fact, the next day, we used those incense sticks as part of the wedding ceremony. Now, this happened when Swami blessed our son's wedding. Let me share a story where Swami blessed our daughter's wedding in the year 2005 when Swami was with us in the physical form. Our family was in Prashanti Nilayam in February of 2005, and we had printed the wedding invitations. So it's always a customary among Sai devotees that whenever we have a very special function, we would offer the first wedding invitation to Swami, and that was my intention. I had the good fortune of sitting on the veranda. Unfortunately, Swami during those days never accepted any letters. He used to come in his golf cart. He used to come onto the veranda near the interview room. He would go right towards the end of the veranda, alight there, and then sit between the two lions to give his darshan. Swami never accepted any letters. So, fortunately for me, when Swami alighted onto the veranda, I held on. I offered the wedding invitation to Swami, and as Swami was actually moving in that golf cart, he actually picked up the wedding invitation. And by the time he looked at it, he was quite a distance from where I was sitting. Baba actually looked back and gave me a big smile, and I was very happy. The next day, we wanted to have the Mangal Sutra blessed by Baba. And a beautiful thing happened. As soon as Swami came onto the veranda, he had his hand stretched like that. And all the way from the interview room, all the way to where I was sitting, Swami's hands were stretched while he was being driven into the vehicle. And as soon as he came near me, he gently tapped on the uh, uh, tapped on the Mangal Sutra to bless it. A beautiful miracle happened in September of that year during the wedding. As soon as the wedding was over, right next to the mandap where the wedding was held, we had a life-size picture of Swami, And so my daughter and son-in-law offered the arti. And so when they were waving the flame, one of the devotees who was standing next to me, she told me that she saw the entire picture of Baba defy the law of gravity and moved. She is the only person who saw that entire picture of Baba moved. And when my son was waving the flame, he saw Swami coming out from the picture towards him. That was a beautiful miracle, which showed that Swami was with us during the wedding ceremony. Another beautiful incident happened 10 years prior to that wedding ceremony. And Baba gave a wedding gift to my daughter and son in law 10 years before they got married and 10 years before they even knew each other. So my son in law's name is Neil. When Neil was in high school, he used to work at a grocery store at the checkout counter. So he was checking out his last customer. And while he was checking out, this was in New York State, while he was checking out the customer, he had a vision where he saw many, many small, tiny pendants coming towards him. And dear brothers and sisters, you might have seen those very tiny pendants with Swami in the Abhayasta pose. And Swami actually, he saw that several pendants coming towards him in a vision, and then the vision disappeared. Immediately after that, the lady who was being checked out, she picked up a pendant and gave it to Neil and said, "I think this is yours." So Swami actually manifested a pendant on the checkout counter of a grocery store in New York State. So once he checked that out, that was the last customer. So he closed the counter and he put his hands in the pocket in his apron to make sure that he didn't leave anything behind. And when he put his hand in the pocket, he found another pendant. So Swami manifested two pendants right there. And at that time, when he was only about 17 or 18 years old, he said that whenever I get married, to whomever I get married, I'm going to offer this as a wedding gift. So Swami gave a wedding gift to our daughter and son-in-law 10 years before they even got married. The next story happened last year in the year 2011 in May. I was alone in the car driving to the bank. And when I was driving, the automobile in front of me slowed down because the driver wanted to make a right turn. And so I also slowed down. Unfortunately, the driver behind me did not slow down, and I had a rear end collision. It was a minor collision in my estimation, simply because when he hit me, my body did not move even half an inch. Now, usually when you have a front end collision or a rear end collision or a collision in the sides, either you get a major whiplash or your body moves because of the impact of the accident. My body did not move half an inch even. So I got out of the car, went to the other driver who was a young adult, and I consoled him and said, "Don't worry, I'm perfectly okay." When I looked at his automobile, the front end of his automobile was completely smashed. Although he was alone in the car, both the airbags had gotten inflated. His car was towed to the junkyard. My car was towed to the body shop. The next day, a lady from the body shop called me and said, "Were you hurt in the accident?" And I said, "No, I am perfectly fine." So this lady said, "Our preliminary estimate is that there is $10,000 in damages, and we are going to order the parts for fixing the automobile." And I said, "Fine." The next day, another lady from the body shop called and asked me if I was fine, if I was hurt in the accident. And I said, "No." So this lady said that upon further inspection, the car has to be totaled because there is $20,000 in damages. And in fact, when they looked at the bottom of the car, there was a very big hole. Now, dear brothers and sisters, two experts, ladies who know what their business is, said that it was a major automobile accident. And I say that it was a minor accident because my body did not even move half an inch. So, how do we reconcile these two divergent opinions? Very simple. Swami converted a major automobile accident into a minor automobile accident as a result of his divine grace. Let me share the fourth story, uh, which actually goes back to the year 1990 when Swami was with us in the physical form. As you know, Swami is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. And whenever we get together in Swami's name, either at a Sai center or a retreat or a Sai conference, Swami is always there. And on many occasions, Swami shows his presence when flowers from the top of a picture fall down, defying the laws of gravity, or Vibhuti is manifested, and Swami shows his presence in that way. So in 1990, I was invited to give a talk at a Sai Baba center in New Jersey. The topic of my talk was significance of selfless service. And during my talk, I said the following. I said, the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy. And as soon as I said that, a big flower that was on the top of a life-size picture of Swami fell down, and it fell on the garland which was surrounding that picture, and the whole garland started to move, and we could actually hear the flower fall down. Next week, which was again would be 1990, I was invited to give a talk at our own Sai Center, and I repeated the talk. And when I said the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy, and as soon as I said that, a flower fell down. Two similar talks a week apart. As soon as I said that sentence, flowers fell down. Fast forward to the year 2016 when Swami was no longer with us in the physical form. I was invited to give a talk at a Sai Baba center in London, England. And I was discussing all of Swami's teachings. And when it came to selfless service, I said, the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy. And dear brothers and sisters, as soon as I said that, a flower which was on the left side, on a picture on the left side where there was a wall there, it fell down. It was such a big flower that when it fell down, I could hear it because I was very close to the wall. I could hear the flower fall. After my talk, I was exchanging pleasantries with several devotees, and one devotee said, Vijay, did you see that flower fall down? And I said, yes. In fact, that was quite a noise that the flower created. He said something very remarkable. He said, exactly at that same time, a flower on the lady's side also fell down. So when I said the best way to receive Swami's divine grace is to selflessly serve the needy, a flower on the men's side and a flower on the lady's side also fell down. That is a result of Swami's divine grace and showing his presence. On two occasions, he showed his presence when he was with us in the physical form. And in the second occasion, in the year 2016, when Swami was no longer with us, he again showed his presence. So, dear brothers and sisters, if I can leave the most important message today is this. The fact that Swami is no longer with us in the physical form does not mean that he is not with us. Swami's omnipresent form is with us right now, as I demonstrated in the four experiences that I've had. Let me go to the second part of my talk, which is, as devotees, what should we do to secure Swami's divine grace? And the answer is very, very simple. Become full-time devotees of Baba. Because Baba has said, full-time devotees receive full-time grace from Swami, and part-time devotees only receive part-time grace from Baba. So if we become full-time devotees, we receive full-time grace from Baba. Swami gives a beautiful example. He says, if you are a part-time devotee, you receive part-time wages. So if you go to your boss and say, give me full-time wages, you're not going to get it because part-time employees only get part-time wages. So part-time employees cannot get full-time wages. Similarly, part-time devotees cannot receive full-time grace from Swami. We have to become full-time devotees of Baba. How do we become full-time devotees of Baba? Very simple. Make an earnest attempt to practice all of Baba's teachings. When we earnestly practice all of Baba's teachings, we become full-time devotees of Baba. When we have a casual attitude towards practicing Baba's teachings and practice only those teachings that are convenient for us and not the others, then we are part-time devotees. When we are full-time devotees, by earnestly practicing all of Baba's teachings, we have symbolically taken one step towards Baba. And when we take that symbolic one step towards Baba, Swami takes 3 steps towards us. On one occasion, Baba said, if you take one step towards me, I will take 100 steps towards you to wipe off your devotional tears. With Swami, if you do something equivalent to one step, Swami gives you something much more. With Swami, it is not equivalent. Whatever we do for Swami, Swami gives us much more than that. So, dear brothers and sisters, if we want to have Swami's divine grace in full measure, we have to become full-time devotees of Swami. And the only way we can become full-time devotees of Baba is to practice all of Swami's teachings. There's a beautiful story where Swami talks about practicing his teachings, he being pleased with us, he showering his grace on us, and taking care of our karmic burden. This beautiful story appears in the book Conversations with Sathya Sai Baba by Dr. John Hislop. Those of you who are familiar with the book are aware that Dr. Hislop had posed some really, really beautiful questions to Swami, and Swami, out of his infinite grace, had provided some really beautiful answers. So one of the questions that Dr. Hislop posed to Swami had to do with terminal cancer. And the question was, can Swami cure terminal cancer? And Baba responded by saying that yes, he can cure terminal cancer, and gave the example of a lady whom Dr. Hislop knew. This devotee, her whole body was filled with cancer cells. The doctors had given up all hope, and the doctors had given her only a few days to live. So, in order to make her last few days comfortable, the doctors removed all the tubes that were on her body. They sewed up all the incisions that were on her body so that she could die in peace. But Swami decided to intervene, and Swami cured her completely of her terminal cancer. Then Baba said to Dr. Hislop, this devotee is fine and healthy now, and she works all day long. So Dr. Hislop had a follow-up question. He said, Swami, when devotees fail to get cured by Baba, they attribute it to the fact that their karma is not ready. And Baba gave one of the most profound answers that I have ever come across. Baba said, If I am pleased with a person, I heal that person at once. Karma can have no effect on that. If I am pleased with a person, I heal that person at once. Karma can have no effect on that. And I'll explain in a little while how we can please Baba, because, dear brothers and sisters, if we want Swami to take care of us, to guide us, to guard us, to protect us, the only thing we have to do is to please Baba. So there was a follow-up question from Dr. Hislop to Swami. He said, Swami, when people fail to get cured by Baba, they attribute it to the fact that their karma is not ready. And Baba gave another beautiful answer. Swami said, if a person has a pure heart and is living Swami's teachings, Swami's grace is automatic. No karma can prevent that. If a person has a pure heart and is living Swami's teachings, Swami's grace is automatic. No karma can prevent that. So, in this beautiful sentence, Swami is saying a couple of things. We have to be living Baba's teachings. If a person has a pure heart and is living Swami's teachings, Swami's grace is automatic. No karma can prevent that. So, we have to be living Swami's teachings, meaning that we have to be practicing Baba's teachings. When we sincerely and earnestly practice all of Baba's teachings by becoming full-time devotees of Baba, we automatically start getting rid of our bad qualities. When we get rid of our bad qualities, we start having a pure heart. So Baba says when a person has a pure heart and is living Swami's teaching, there is a direct connection. So we become full-time devotees of Baba. We practice sincerely his teaching. We get a pure heart. Swami is immensely pleased with us. When Baba is immensely pleased with us, he showers his grace on us. And when Baba showers his grace on us, the law of karma does not apply if that is Swami's divine will. So, dear brothers and sisters, we have to become full-time devotees of Baba so that we can continue to do that. Now, in order to practice Baba's teachings, we first have to learn about what Baba's teachings are. And Swami's, if we add up all the pages in that appear in Sathya Sai Speaks, the Vahinis, and the Summer Showers, it comes to about 18,000 pages. So we have to start somewhere. So if you want to know about a specific teaching of Swami, which is love, then we can read Prema Vahini. If you want to know something about Dharma, we can read Dharma Vahini. If you want to know anything about Guru Purnima, then Sathya Sai Speaks has so many discourses that Swami gave on Guru Purnima Day. Also, there are many messages of the day, which are very small paragraphs. We can do that because we have to start somewhere, and that can only happen we start reading Baba's literature so that we can know what his teachings are, so that we can practice them and become full-time devotees of Baba. Now, Swami's divine words can bring about a complete transformation in the lives of devotees. Swami's divine words are exceedingly powerful. Sometimes we only have to read one paragraph from Swami, and that can bring about a complete transformation in our lives. Let me share an example of a beautiful story that happened in the year 2000. I had written my third book, which was Faith in God. And I got a letter from a devotee who lives in England. So he and his wife went to North India to visit their family. And then they were planning to go to Prashanti Nilayam to have Baba's darshan. They had a niece who used to live in North India, and they requested her to join them. And she apparently must have refused because when I got the letter, this gentleman from England said that we literally had to drag her to Prashanti Nilayam. So the three of them reached Prashanti Nilayam, this young adult, was walking near the bookstore. She saw the bookstore, went inside the bookstore, started browsing all the books. She came across the book Faith in God. She bought it and went back to her room with her uncle and aunt and started reading the book Faith in God. Now, Faith in God has about 250 quotations on faith, all of them from Swami's literature. All the books that I've written, 100% is Swami's divine words or divine writings like the Vahinis. I do not add anything. This young adult read the book and got completely transformed after reading that book. She went back to North India, became a member of the Sai organization, did everything that was required of her as part of the Sai Center activities. She also learned how to meditate. One day at home in her meditation room, in her puja room, she had closed her eyes and was meditating. And a beautiful miracle happened. She heard Swami's voice during her meditation, and Baba said, "My birthday is coming up very shortly. What kind of a gift are you going to give to for my birthday?" This young adult was so happy to hear Swami's voice. When she opened her eyes fell on the book Faith in God. So at once a thought came into her mind that I should translate this book in the Hindi language. So she translated the book in the Hindi language. They had the manuscript. She and her uncle and aunt made their second trip to Prashanti Nilayam. They went to the bookstore, and the bookstore said, "Yes, we will give permission, but they have to write to me to get my permission because I was the author of that book." So from Prashanti Nilayam, this gentleman sent me a letter. Now, usually in those days, it used to take about 5, 6, or maybe 7 days for the letter to arrive. It took only 3 days for the letter to arrive. And it came in on the day they were planning to leave Prashanti Nilayam. And this young adult was so anxious that I would give permission. The miracle happened when the letter arrived in half the time it normally takes. I opened the letter. I heard the beautiful story. I called them right away and said, "Please go outside the ashram, find a store which can receive faxes. I'm going to type up the letter, permission letter, and within half an hour, I'll call you and then I will send you the fax." Within half an hour, I called them, I sent the fax, and they were very happy. This young adult actually wrote another beautiful book on Dharma. So, dear brothers and sisters, in order to become full time devotees, which is very essential for our spiritual progress, we have to learn about Baba's divine teachings. All of us who have gathered here today, as well as all Sai devotees throughout the world, are really indeed very fortunate that we recognize Baba to be an avatar while he was amongst us. And the reason is that it is very difficult to recognize an avatar while he is amongst us. If that was not the case, then the whole world would be Swami's devotees. Baba has said that to even think of God, our past karmas have to be very good. And to recognize an avatar, our past karmas have to be really, really good. Otherwise, we cannot recognize an avatar. There are only two ways we can recognize an avatar. Number one, our past karmas have to be very good, and we have to receive Swami's divine grace. On one occasion, a devotee was having a conversation with Swami, and he said, "Swami, I must have done something really good in a previous life to be able to be in thy divine presence in this lifetime." Baba said, "No, not one life, many, many previous lives. You have done very good karmas to be able to be in my divine presence." On one occasion, Baba said, "I have prepared you over many, many previous lives for the role that I have given you to play in this lifetime." And what is that role that Baba has given us? Very simple: transformation of the spiritual heart so that we continue our journey towards liberation from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Transformation of the spiritual heart is Swami's greatest miracle, and liberation is Swami's most important teaching. On Guru Purnima Day in 1984, Baba said, Your lives are intertwined with my earthly career. Act always in accordance with that great privilege. Your lives are intertwined with my earthly career. Act always in accordance with that great privilege. On another occasion, Baba said, do not let go of this chance to be so close to me, because you don't know when again in another future life you will have the opportunity to be in the presence of the divine avatar. Swami is a Purna avatar, which is the highest category amongst avatars. And there was a gap of more than 5,000 years between Lord Krishna, who was a Purna avatar, and Swami. So Purna avatars do not come into the world often. So we should not let go of this chance to be so close to Swami. I believe that the greatest gift that Swami has given us, not only in this lifetime, but in all of our previous lives, is the gift that Baba gave us for our ability to recognize him as recognize him as an avatar while he was amongst us. So few people in the world are Sai devotees, and we are part of that select group. That is the greatest privilege, and that's the greatest boon that Swami has given us, not only in this life, but in all of our previous lives. So, dear brothers and sisters, let us not let us seize this opportunity to be Sai devotees, to make spiritual progress and find fulfillment in life. Sai Ram, and thank you very much.
Sairam, dear brother, this was such an inspiring, just a most amazing talk you have given us. Next month, as Sai devotees all over the world are going to celebrate Guru Purnima, I think you gave us more inspiration to really become that 100% devotee. I know we all try, and we have our bumps, but after listening to this today, I think we will try with 100% effort as well. And you are very correct in saying our Swami has never left us. He is more so with us now, and everything we do, we should do knowing that he is watching us, and like you said, to improve ourselves and do no wrong to anyone. Thank you so much on behalf of all of the members of the Sathya Sai Center of Arcadia. We deeply thank you for this most inspiring talk.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Sai Ram.
Thanks. Thank you for the invitation.